Hey, folks, this is John Katona. He is the owner of JNNT Studios, musical production studios, and Bird Fight Records, not to be confused with Bird Flight that I was calling it. Bird Fight Records, his record company here. Welcome to Beyond the Pages, John. I'm glad you're here today.
Yeah, thanks.
We're really
Thanks for having me.
kind of interested in a number of things, but I've got an artist right there, Don McCauley, and in a sense, what you're doing there is artistry too. You're putting together music and things like that. And you got a former garage band superstar, keyboard player. That's me. We're one of the greatest garage bands of all time, and a great third string quarterback in high school too. That's me. At any rate, John, welcome again, and please tell us a little bit about your background, your history, and in basically going back many years and developing this enterprise. You're an entrepreneur now, and you're expanding your business. So, on that note, I'll let you dig in here.
Yeah, so I guess I started out playing piano as a kid, taking lessons, and then in middle school, I had a bad piano teacher, and so I quit piano and bought a guitar off eBay. I saved up my lunch money. I would eat less lunch and save some money, and saved up just enough to buy a guitar on eBay. Bought a guitar, and then I got into music production and put out my first record when I was in 11th grade, and then it wasn't good or anything, but it was at least a full album of 11 songs or something. And then did another one in 12th grade, and then in college I had a band, and we put out a couple records, and people liked them and found them somehow. We weren't sure how. It was early days of Facebook, so we were on Facebook promoting that way, in early days of YouTube, and we had a couple videos that did pretty well, and we started having people reach out to us to be on whatever. We were featured on NPR, All Songs Considered, and then we got a Super Bowl commercial, which was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, yeah, cool.
Yeah, it was fun. I was just like watching the Super Bowl, and then a song comes on. I'm like, that's my song.
Yeah,
I didn't know they were going to air it during the Super Bowl. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember something about that. That is so cool.
So that was cool. And then during that time, I was in engineering school to be an industrial engineer. And so I finished my bachelor's and then got hired at GM. And so right as I was getting a little bit of success with music, I started working as an engineer, and then worked as an engineer for 10 years, got my master's degree in engineering. And the whole time I was making my own music and producing for other people that would reach out and ask me to produce for them. And then everything kind of changed when COVID hit. Long story short, I won a big lawsuit right before COVID happened to renovate my house to make it accessible. And then COVID hit, and then I pivoted to, I'll make my home accessible and also make it a professional recording studio. So I had people come in, treat all the rooms, professional treatment everywhere, soundproofed. There's fake walls, there's bass traps in the corner here, wiring in all the walls. And I started doing music more professionally, bringing in more people. And then I ended up starting a record label and leaving GM to do this full-time, both recording, started a few YouTube channels. I produced some podcasts, and then all my video work I'm doing. So it's a lot of different things. I like doing the music part the best, but I do some video because you kind of have to nowadays.
Right. Wow. I didn't realize how much you're doing there. How many different things that sprung off of kind of like your love of music, I think, when you get down to
exactly. Concerts stopped. So I was like, I want to do concerts in my house. So I was inviting all these bands I liked to play in my studio. I would film them and we would release those. And that was kind of how it all started. And then more bands started reaching out. And now we just have a Rolodex of anyone in the area we can kind of bring in if we want to.
Yeah, I check out your YouTube channel from time to time. You've got bands that do cover tunes in there. You've got some more ballads in there. All right, just a quick question. Do you do
Yeah.
any rap artists at all? Out of
Yeah.
curiosity?
Yeah. So I try to do a little bit of everything. So the point of our YouTube channel is to collaborate with different people that do different genres. So we purposely try to get people in either
Mhm.
that we're fans of or that are doing something a little bit different. So, and then the cover songs, the only reason people do cover songs really is because we ask them to, because
Oh, yeah.
YouTube algorithms, cover songs do better than originals. So we want bands to do one cover and then one original. And hopefully the cover promotes the original. Otherwise, the originals don't get as many views. So we're doing it. It's in the artist's best interest to do at least a cover because then that brings in more viewers for them.
Yeah, and I think that that I forget the exact name of that show. I've watched a couple of them, and that's it's like chatting with the band or the musicians or what
Yeah. So that's
they,
our podcast series that we started. It's on pause right now because the host, his wife just had a baby. So we're taking 2 months off so the
Mhm.
baby can get all of her vaccinations and everything that she needs to get. And then we'll start it back up. But yeah, basically what we do is we bring in bands or artists or professional musicians to talk about the music industry. And so we had one guest that talked about doing gigs at places like casinos or restaurants and
Mhm.
how he makes a living. You can gig 4 or 5 nights a week and make enough to pay rent and everything. And the gigs pay $400 or $500 a day. So if you can
Mhm.
get 4 or 5 a week that are consistent, that's great money plus
Yeah,
tips or whatever
yeah,
else you want to do with your time.
absolutely. You make a
So
living.
yeah,
Yeah.
so he talks about how he got those gigs and how much he charges and all of that. But then we have other people that are kind of on the other end where they do the college circuit. So we had them in and we talked to them about how do they get in the college circuit. What it
Yeah.
is they play for like homecoming dances or that kind of thing at
Huh.
universities, and they get paid 3 to 5 to $8,000 per gig. So it pays
Hmm.
enough for them to fly in, get a hotel, play, and still make money. And then they usually play another gig in that city the same trip to build up their fan base. But they talk about how they got that and how they do that. And then we have other people that are more recently we brought in this hip hop R&B type project that's called Artistry Unbound, and they're really great in Detroit promoting the music scene there. And it's a lot of rappers and vocalists. And so we put together our own band and then brought in 4 artists so they could perform with a full band, which a
Oh,
lot of those rappers don't get to do because they're playing with DJs or they're running
yeah,
tracks. And
yeah.
so it was a cool opportunity for them to play with the live band, no click track, no backtracks, fully live. And then we interview each one after. So
Hmm.
we've done a little bit of everything. We have some people coming up. We're trying to get people from other cities around the country. So we have some Chicago bands we've done and Nashville, but we want to get some people out from California and New York City and
Yeah,
Boston. So those are
yeah,
some of the newer ones. But yeah,
yeah. God, Nashville. I was there not too long ago. I always wanted to go there and check out it's the country. So you can listen to country there, or you can listen to country when you're in Nashville when you go
mhm.
down Broadway Street. And not to digress too much, but uh, the musicians there are playing. Basically, they're playing for tips. You know, I was in Kid Rock's bar and I got the chance to talk to. He's got like 4 levels in that bar now. He's really built it up.
Yeah, it depends on where
And
you're at. Some of those guys are making good money.
that's what,
It's
yeah.
not a
And the
good gig.
people that I ran into were like they were more just trying to get noticed and playing for
Yeah,
tips and asking you a lot to. Hey, can you like throw me some tips here? If you
yeah,
give me
those
20
people
bucks,
don't
I'll give
last.
you like 3 songs or something like that. But
They don't last
yeah,
very long.
in that scene there, are there people? I know some big names in country have they start there. A lot of them start right in Nashville.
Yeah.
So they are making money in there too. Just out of curiosity, it seemed like everybody
Uh,
was just on a wing and a prayer. You know.
yeah, one of my favorite episodes actually of our podcast was with a band called the Wholesome Boys, and they're from Nashville,
Yeah.
and the bass player played in on Broadway, and he said that they would play like 12 hours straight. It was good money, but they would just get drunk every day and waste all the money, and then uh, it's a hard lifestyle. It's fun, and you get really good at your instrument, so it's a good way to build up your chops. But you're not gonna really get famous there or noticed And then all those guys ended up getting a residency playing their own original music in East Nashville. And that's where
Oh,
more
okay.
of the up and coming stuff is going to be at.
Yeah.
And so they're talking about a little bit more of that scene and how you get a residency playing with original songs, not cover songs. And then they end up going out to Brooklyn to record their record because Nashville has it has its own scene and its own sound, and they wanted to try to mix that with another big city. But yeah,
Oh, I
so
see.
there is money to be made, but Broadway isn't. That's where you go to learn and meet people and get better, but not a way to earn a living.
Yeah, that's quite a street there, and I didn't
Yeah.
realize until I was hanging out there for a couple days that there are so many girls, young girls, women, whatever, having their men call it bachelor party, bachelorette parties, and
Or
they're
21st birthday parties. Yeah.
yeah, they're pretty wild. They were like having a good time. Just put it that way. And then I realized, some of them were wearing like not the wedding gown necessarily, but wedding attire that women wear when
Mhm.
they're, you know, getting married officially. I'm going like, holy cow! And they were getting pretty wild too. It was fun. The industry. I want to just talk about you're sort of doing it the industry as a whole, and maybe where it's going. Starting back with your business just for a second,
Mhm.
where does AI come into what you're doing specifically, John, in your business? Is it real prevalent right now? Talk to me about the technology.
Yeah. So AI is kind of a broad term in music production, where a lot of tools that we're calling AI aren't necessarily AI. Like
Mhm.
one of the tools that I use is uh, removes backing sound or backing tracks from songs. So I'll use, if I have a live session, for instance, and we have a vocalist in the same room as a drum set and a drummer, you'll have bleed from the drum set into the vocal
Oh yeah,
microphone.
I
And
imagine.
so
Yeah.
you want to turn up your vocal mic and you can't because the drums are getting louder. So I use AI to remove the drums from the vocal mic so then I can get a cleaner mix. And then I usually have to end up mixing in the originals a little bit so it doesn't sound like it has digital artifacts. I can usually hear weird digital artifacts, especially if I'm trying to pitch correct the vocals. You can get really weird things. Um, but yeah, I don't think they used artificial intelligence to create this model, and then the model is being applied. And maybe that model gets better and better, but
Mhm.
it's not learning from what I input to give me something better.
Okay. And that
But
is a
yeah,
distinction that I've read about researching and doing these shows that um, the true, I guess it what you call the synthetic intelligence or something like that, is
yeah,
when you give the machine a goal and don't tell them necessarily how to do it. And
yeah,
that's very simple what I'm saying, the way I'm sure there's more to it than that. But and then if the machine comes up with a solution or something like that, that's the learning part of it versus a lot of stuff being marketed as AI is not truly
yeah,
AI. It's more robotic stuff that's already out there. But yeah, I
yeah,
was curious about that, how it interfaces with your business. So it doesn't sound like there's anything really learning there. These are more
yeah. Well, that's
tools
one
that
way
you
that I
might
use.
package under
Yeah,
AI or
there's other tools though. So that's one of the tools that I do use. And I use it sparingly because I don't trust it totally. If it was great, I would probably use it a lot.
Mhm.
Uh, and as it gets better, I'll probably use it more. But that's just a small thing. People can use that for more, I guess, legally gray areas, such as removing backing music from a pop vocal song. So taking out Katy Perry's back so you can remix her song with her real vocals. So I know a lot of people use it for that, which isn't totally legal, but she's probably not going to sue you, so you're fine.
Yeah.
Um, but then I've also used uh, this software called Suno, and it's it's one of the main AI music softwares that's basically stealing from artists and then packaging a song that is a little bit like the artist, but not that great, and giving it back to you with some options, and you can go in and change things. But the way that I've used it is as inspiration. So you can have it give you lyrics to a song, and they come out really weird. and you can change them and make them into something, and using it as like a start of a song can be fun. And then another way that I've seen it used is there's an artist I'm working with that was in a band that was signed in the 90s and by a major label, and then they got dropped before the record came out. So he has his old songs and he wants to reproduce those. He wrote them and it has his vocals. So he's using it, putting it in there and saying, let's redo the music, but keep my vocal. And it can do that. And that's pretty cool. So he's using it to create new arrangements for his songs.
Yeah.
And then he wants to come into the studio and get session musicians to play those parts that he came up with using AI. So I think that's kind of a nice way to use it, but I don't think that's the way most people are using it, unfortunately.
That's still his creation for the most part. What
Right,
you're describing there.
You're using it as like a tool, kind of like people use DAWs as a tool or a guitar as a tool to make a sound.
Yeah.
But yeah, then you have bands that are all it is AI. They just tell it prompts, and it's basically stealing from all the other artists that did that genre of music, and then spits it out, and then they're making money off of it and not crediting the original artists and not sharing that money, which is totally illegal. I think. I don't know when it'll catch up to the law.
I don't know where this is all going right now. There's some major lawsuits out there and such. Don, we've talked about this a number of times. Where what you were telling me one time about a pixel from one of your right behind you there, you can see some of your work there. Somebody grabs a piece of it. I'm going to say pixel because I'm not that technical, but and blows it up to something different, or maybe mixes in something else. Who owns it at that point? Well, that person creating that, I think, I could like grab you and 5 other artists and put it into, and I guess claim ownership for it for whatever that person's doing. That's pretty crazy. I don't know how you get around that legally. What's your thoughts on that?
It's interesting because a good number of years ago there was an MIT who's a graduate, and he downloaded some literature from their library and then ended up getting slapped with a lawsuit. Well, during the lawsuit, he ended up committing suicide. Now, fast forward, Meta had downloaded some 70 petabytes worth of literature. And guess what? It's okay. So, what are we going to do?
Yeah, exactly. Where's it going?
Studio Ghibli over in Japan, they produce these famously beautiful anime films. No one has copied their style. They just have a super unique style. And now AI comes in and says, hey, I can just copy this. And, hey, you want to look like a Studio Ghibli character? Oh, okay. Well, here you go. Is that, a derivative work? Is that an original work? No, because, hey, guess what? It's their style. So that's
absolutely
one thing. That's definitely a gray area.
Yeah. And certain
I don't know if
bands,
they can do it, though. Do you think that AI could create a Studio Ghibli movie that would be anywhere close to what their movies are?
No. So, I mean, all right. So I watched, there was one of their animators was speaking, and there was about 20 seconds of the film, and it was a crowd scene. He goes, I spent 6 months on this, just hand animating everything. And that's, back to the thing is like with the music question is this, it's so good because you can see the work, you can feel the work that was put into it.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's not something, a machine, it can reproduce it just like anything else. You can go in and have, a CNC machine go in and make a wood chair or a table 50,000 times. But is that the same as, one of the artists from the Renaissance carving a piece of wood out from a tree and then going down to this beautiful sculpture? It's a non-equatable, type of circumstance.
Yeah.
People can see the work that you put into things. If you get a choir of 200 people, there's something more impactful to that you can't recreate quickly. People appreciate some things take time, and there's no shortcut. Like real caramelized onions do taste better than if you do the shortcut caramelized onions. Like that you can get by, but the real ones are better, and people know that, and they'll pay more for that.
Exactly. That's really what it comes down to, is the valuation of something. And
Mhm.
that's kind of like going back to the article is, hey, if somebody is only putting in a minimal amount of effort into something and you're expecting them to pay X amount, well, somebody goes in and puts hundreds of hours into something, well, automatically, what's worth more, even if it's the same product, what
Mhm.
ultimately is worth more. And it kind of comes down to the person, it's all art essentially at that point, because it's, and beauty is in the eye of the beholder, no matter what the medium.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, John, I wanted to something that occurred to me. I was thinking about things you've done before, but watch Prime or Netflix. So I watch movies, and it was before we did this interview today. I was watching something. I think it was that Adams Family Wednesday.
Yeah.
The girl from the Adams Family. I was watching one of those episodes, and I got to thinking about the background music. And I think you've been involved with that before, but the thought occurred to me, like I'm watching this or any other movie, how dynamic, how important music is in the background.
Mhm.
Obviously, one great example is Jaws. Doo-doo, doo-doo. No, but the way not the Wednesday thing I was watching, but I was watching a movie where it was an emotional, probably a heart tugging scene a little bit, and they dropped the music down that was fast and went to a strings and piano in the background. And I got to thinking about that today and how important it is that we overlook. You're watching the actors, you're watching the plot, you're watching the emotions they're conveying and following it all in the background. If you pulled all that music out of there, it wouldn't be it wouldn't be as good. So
Mhm.
and I'm the biggest critic or anything, but I've seen some real crappy music, in my opinion, in the background that just didn't fit. Or you get these Netflix series, short series, or something like that, and they'll play, somebody's maybe riding a horse, a little majestic scene, and there's some maybe woods or mountains in the back, and they're playing some almost like a full song of something that I'm thinking to myself, not that the song is necessarily bad, but it's overdone and it doesn't fit. In my opinion, it just doesn't
Mhm.
fit what I'm seeing there right now. And then it gets back to, and I think you've done music, arranged for music or produced it for documentaries. If I think your mom told me one time, thinking back,
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
and
I've scored a
talk about that a little bit,
documentary.
because I think it gets overlooked. Not necessarily, documentaries are one thing; it's kind of the same thing. But movies are so, the quality of a movie in my mind is good music with it that fits. And even when you go out of movie, when they're doing the credits, if they bang some song that just kind of fits, it could be an action movie or something, and they play a really cool song at the end of it, I'll keep watching the credits because I like the song. And then you start reading, I'll never know these people in my life, but tell me a little bit about that. If you are you involved with that at all, or have?
Um, I have been a little bit. So I agree at the end credits though, especially things like with the real composer, where the end credits are usually the best part of the score, or one of the, it brings back all the themes. It's great, especially for things like the Batman Christopher Nolan movies. The score is there for those end credits. Really cool. Or like uh, even the Star Wars movies. It's kind of fun. In Detroit, the Detroit uh, Symphony plays Star Wars or some other movies. They'll do a live score to the film, and you can watch the film with the symphony doing the score. And it drives me
Oh,
crazy at the end of the movie. Sometimes people will be walking out while they're doing the end credits, but it's like the best part of the score, and they're walking away from the one of the top 10 orchestras in the world probably
yeah,
playing this
yeah,
piece of music, and it just like blows my mind. But
Interstellar's
how
another
it's,
one.
yeah, and how it's Yeah, it's just not appreciated sometimes, but it's what makes the movie so good. The Star Wars movies wouldn't be what they are without John Williams.
Yeah.
The
Yeah. John
score is
Williams.
incredible.
Yeah. I
Oh, you
remember,
mentioned Jaws too. But yeah, so licensing for movies is one of the, I guess licensing for TV and movies and advertisements is one of the best ways to make money. The movies don't make as much as commercials, and TV with syncing, there you make a lot as well, especially if it gets syndicated, then you make a lot of money.
mm,
So any way that you can get in there is really good, but you have to work with licensing companies and get your music and catalogs, and that's a whole
oh,
full-time job figuring all of that out. So that's one way people try to make money, is to make music of a certain genre. So they'll make a song like, I have a friend that tried to make a song like a band called Portugal the Man, and the song is Feel It Still, and then they ended up calling the song, I think, Spain the Person, but it
mm,
was just kind of a play on words, and it got licensed for I don't know what show, but it has that vibe that people want, that really, really popular song feel, but they don't want to pay what it costs to get the Katy
oh,
Perry song. You can get
yeah.
a song that similar vibe for a tenth the cost. And so people will make libraries of music for that purpose.
Mm,
Um, and I have friends in the music industry that do that. And then I've had stuff that's been licensed for uh, commercials and smaller indie films, that kind of thing. And it pays a little bit, but it's more about trying to help support other artists, especially like indie films. You
right.
don't really want to charge that much to a indie director, so we'll figure it out and barter and work with people's budgets. And we don't want to
Yeah.
be charging artists. We
Yeah.
want we want the film to make money, and then we get paid if the film
Oh,
makes
okay.
money.
So, hey, yeah, I was kind of going to lead into like,
Yeah,
how do you monetize this thing? I had no clue, but I'm kind of gathering there's a number of ways that you can, make money in your
yeah. There's
studio.
100 different ways too. It's you just have to
Kind of
focus
what I'm
and
gathering right now. You're bringing out a lot
yeah.
of information here and ways to do things.
Uh,
Yeah. If there's 100 things to do like that, you could do it. Do you focus on like a top three right now that are your money makers, so to speak, to bringing you the revenue? Where
yeah,
is the money for John Katona? Where's that keeps you on the map here?
exactly. That's what I'm trying to figure out right now. So a lot of musicians, it's touring that makes all the money. Um, and then for me though, because I have this studio that I built, I make the most when I'm doing audio sessions, recording for people. So coming in, um, a lot of people can produce their own songs, records, but you can't record a drum set if you don't have a space for a drum set. You just can't do it. And if you don't have 10 microphones, it's not going to sound that good. It's the reality of it. Same thing with doing piano or doing final vocals. If you don't have the $1,000 mic through the analog preamp in a booth that's treated, it's not going to sound as good as other records. So that's where people will come in and hire me, and I can just charge an hourly rate. That's really great. And
Oh,
then I'm doing that to focus on the things that I really like to do, is where I can produce artists that I believe in or people
mhm,
that I like to work with. And those I'll do for cheap or for free
sure.
because I believe in those projects. And then those ones I take a percentage of.
Ah, okay.
So I'll take 50% of whatever we make through streaming, licensing, and vinyl sales if we press vinyl, or physical sales.
Okay.
Um, so I'll do that sometimes too. And then I also have some other endeavors like YouTube channels and podcasts that they could, we'll see what ends up happening with those. Some
Yeah.
of them are doing really well, and other ones we're trying to figure out what the focus is. It's
Yeah,
fat.
it sounds like to me that it to me that'll never get boring because you're
Hmm.
always looking for the right mix, the right sound, the right
Hmm.
production, and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So, and I'm sure you got some winners and losers, just like any business. I would have to think.
Yeah. Like one song that we think is going to do really well, get a lot of streams, and then it doesn't. And then another one that isn't even a single ends up getting hundreds of thousands of plays, and
Yeah.
you can't predict it.
Yeah.
Uh,
What
but you just
makes
have
it
to keep
makes it
being
fun?
consistent. Yeah, that's what makes it fun. And as long as you keep going after something new and creative and pushing, then it stays fun and it'll eventually do well. When I'm creating and putting stuff out, people are always reaching out to me. And that's how I keep things going. When I'm not putting things out, everything just kind of stands still. People stop reaching out. Even if I try to market more, it doesn't work. The best way to market is to make something good. And even
There you
if
go.
only 100 people see it, one of those people could be a new client.
Right. Right.
And if I'm not putting anything out and I'm just advertising, that doesn't do anything.
Hey, Don, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? Can you relate?
Absolutely. Everything. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
every step of the way, is exactly like what you described. From the multiple, essentially, multiple hands and multiple pots, all the
Mhm.
way down to, being able to put forth the passion into the passion projects. Everything, it sounds
Mhm.
exactly like the artist industry. So it's any creative endeavor,
Yeah.
it's the exact same.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I'm sure, Don, you probably had cases where, like, I know you enough. We've talked enough to know that you're more of a purist than you are monetizing things around you. We you're a little bit different than a lot of people, but that's your mo and such. But if you had that happen where, like, this could be even a commercial project, this could be really dynamite, or I got an idea. You told me one time that I dream in the night of an idea and I'll get up and do it, which I
Oh
found
yeah.
was interesting. And then it doesn't go anywhere. That happens, or it's just part of the
Yeah,
process. Like,
it's yeah. I mean, it's much the same thing. You're like, wow, this is going to do really well, or I'm putting all this effort into this one thing, and then ultimately it ends up only getting a couple views or whatever, and then something that you just throw something together essentially, and it's like, oh, it explodes, and you're like, okay, well, where's the
Mhm.
how can I market that, or how can I
yeah,
essentially capture that magic again? And that's, I mean, that's kind of like that's any industry. The movie industry is just like that too.
yeah,
That's why we get a lot of like the same derivative type works. Is it's like they want to recapture that magic of that one thing that happened,
Yeah, the
and you can't really
sequels.
do that.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
I remember, this is my generation. I remember there was a interview or something with Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones, and he was talking about the famous song that my kids would know, and the song by the Stones called "Satisfaction." I can't get no satisfaction. And Keith Richards was saying, we put that thing down really quick, and it was among some other songs or something. He said, "Well, Mick said that we're going to put that out. I like that." And Keith said, "No, no, that's crap. That is
Yep.
just no, man." And they fought about it, and finally, I guess Jagger got his way, and look at the rest was history.
Well,
And
it was
I think
supposed to
he
be a
believed
saxophone.
when I listened to Keith Richard, as old and the way he looked crotchety and stuff. I think the guy always speaks from his heart, and he tells a lot of. He's a good storyteller too. I guess you can do that at 80 or whatever, but that struck me too. Staying with music for again, I'll talk about the Beatles. Somebody from my generation, and no matter who you are, you pretty much know the four Beatles. John,
Yeah.
George, Ringo, and Paul. And George Martin was their producer, John, and he was being interviewed by somebody in Detroit before he passed, and he said, "Boy, I tell you," he goes, Paul and John would come in the studio, and they start laying down some riffs, and they would like kick some ideas. We're going to do this bridge, and Ringo would sit there and be their critic, and he goes, "I can't believe how many times." John said he'd do a riff, and I'm going like, I'm the producer. And, hey, that sounds pretty cool. You guys can build on it. And John would look it over at Ringo, and he'd say, "What do you think, Ringo?" And he goes, "That's crap." And I'd never hear it again. He goes, "These were like some budding ideas that go figure." The creative process of music, art, all that kind of stuff. Art is still fun to me.
The Rolling Stone story. So I think the reason why Keith Richards didn't like it was supposed to be a saxophone playing that lead riff, that don't
Oh,
and it was a
oh,
fuzz pedal that he was trying to mimic a saxophone sound. And
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay,
that's
that
that's
part.
what that
Yeah,
guitar tone is.
yeah,
And it ended up becoming an iconic tone, but he wanted it to be a saxophone. So I think that was the argument. And now it's like you can't imagine it being anything other than what it is.
yeah, yeah. That's one of the songs that propelled them back in the '60s to the top there when they were just getting rolling.
Yep.
Um, okay, I wanted to ask a couple more things. I don't want to keep you guys all night here, but plans and goals for you, John. You kind of laid out a lot of different variables and things that you do. Where do
Yeah.
you see this thing going from here forward?
Yeah. So the next few things that I'll be focusing on is a guitar YouTube channel called Tone Time with Tom. And it's a place where we talk about nerdy guitar stuff, very specialized music people. It's not for if you don't have 5 guitars, it's not for you. But there's a YouTube's awesome because it's a place for people that have very specific niche hobbies that they can get information and they can binge what's exactly for them. Which going back to that news story you were talking about earlier with that Amazon AI show where you can kind of create exactly what you want. I
Mhm.
think people sort of want that. It would be great if you could have an AI that would give you the exact kind of show that you would enjoy. But part of what makes movies, uh, TV, art great is being able to relate to other people through that medium. And so if you're watching your own thing, I'm watching my own thing, we don't have any common ground to understand each other, to talk to each other. So it'll just create even more divides with people,
Yeah.
and we'll have less to relate to. When we just had the 3 networks, everybody was watching Johnny Carson because it was all there was. And now we
Yeah.
have 15 late night hosts and they're all getting canceled because they can't afford all these different ones. And then you have podcasters that are taking over. And which
Yeah.
is great because you can find a podcaster that you really relate to more than just the one white guy on NBC, and you can
Mhm.
get whatever you relate to. But if you go so specific that it's computers are making something specifically for a single person, that's where we get to like a Wall-E type of situation where we're just too isolated from each other. Part of what makes
Yeah.
music great is to be able to collaborate, and without that and without the shared experience, it's boring really, really fast, I think.
Yeah.
That's what life's about, though, is the shared experience. You know,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
really ultimately what we're building is
Hmm.
Yeah.
ourselves as a species.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'd say
That's
like my current
um,
goal is to have more shared experiences through music and less editing on a computer by myself. I'm doing too much of that lately of just editing and fixing things in the box. I want to have more bands come in and we do 100 takes and use the best one, and we as a team rather than 5 takes and I fix it all in the box afterward.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and wind this down, John. It sounds like for future you're going to be doing this, and I sense you enjoy it. I know
Yeah.
Don enjoys what he does a lot too, in spite of all the headaches that come with it, I'm sure. But
Hmm.
so this is going to be it is your career right now, and you got
Yeah.
it sounds like the ideas are just so dynamic and changing and endless. It's like I say, there's nothing worse than a boring job. I've been there,
Right.
done that. Yeah, especially when you're trying to make a living at it. Probably all of us have been through that
Well, that
more
was the
than once in
problem.
our
That's
life.
why I'm pivoting away is that I was learning about corporate acronyms and doing corporate training and
Yeah.
in these meetings about these things that I'm learning about. Like I was at a car company and learning about these cars that I can't drive because I drive a car with hand controls, and
Mhm.
I I'm wasting my time learning about this stuff. And now anything I learn is just another skill that I can add into my artist skill set, whether it's
Yeah.
video editing or color correcting or any of the things that I've been learning. And so I think that that's the biggest difference for me now is that i- if I'm not working for a client, I can still learn and grow myself rather than do corporate busy work, which is what I was doing a lot of.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I was part of that a lot of my career too. The most fun
Yeah.
I was having, John, was when I had, it was pressure all the time. I bought a lot of toward the tail end of my career, I was buying infrastructure for data centers, the cloud and all that kind of stuff. The most fun I had were the negotiations when you get down to, because they were so dynamic, the managers would come to me, kind of a middle manager, if you will, would come to me, vendor manager. Okay, you got to get this thing for us. We can't do it. We got Ryder Truck here, our client who needs this application by the end of the month, and we got to train people. Can you get like a good price? What's the budget? And then you'd play around with it. Most of the time, I was fortunate to get within the budgets they needed, but that was so. Then I'd close a deal, get a good deal. Everybody was happy with it. The functional people that needed it, and then it was like on to the next one. But that to me kept my job lively and fresh versus the different systems and stuff that they were teaching us, and all the management the management initiatives, I would call, which John, you would know that, and Don maybe too, but yeah, 7 out of 10 of those go by the wayside, or they're tried, and you sit there and go, yeah, that's a pretty good idea. In the back of your mind, you're right, because 7 or 8 of those things would just go, not say stupid, but pretty close. They would go away. So, but if you can get job satisfaction, John, I think Don too, you guys are in a good place in that you're doing, you're doing what you want. What we were talking about, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, Don? It was a couple of shows ago. Yeah, and I said to myself, at my age, you guys are younger than me, but at my age, I'm in that up at the top of the pyramid, self-actualization. Okay, so I get to the top of the pyramid after all these years. I'm sitting back talking to my wife the other day, going like, "What the hell do I want here? I've done what I needed to do and made money, and I'm comfortable, thank God, and all that stuff." But it's like, and maybe that's good. I'm still trying to figure it out. But to me, I look at you guys. I was in that corporate world, John. You lived it too, and really hated it toward the end. I didn't. There's so many, John. There was so many management changes and CEOs changing, and when you get old enough, you see the same old BS from the new boss in town. Same type of things. And John, what they were, the slash and burn artists versus the ones that are growth oriented people that were coming in, but the management lines were basically the same that they were using, with a little twist here and there. I'm so glad I'm out of that right now. But what keeps life interesting is doing a podcast here, or whatever we're doing here, and trying to pass on knowledge, learn, get an understanding. And I think it was one of my best friends used to say, he goes, "Joe, what it's about to the end is you're always looking for clarity. It's the word clarity, and that's always in." If you don't get it, here I go again, but if you don't get the clarity, that's half the fun too, because you're still trying to figure out. Again, it would be boring, Don, if it was.
Oh, it sure
was that easy, But damn, it can be so hard sometimes too. I'll never forget some of the things we went through in the corporate world. How difficult it was with all the management changes that would make you dizzy after a while, And then in what was happening in my business was the acquisitions and mergers were crazy too. But companies were buying companies. My company got split in half. I was Semantic on the West Coast. Got my taste of Silicon Valley for a while, and then they split off half the company and sent me to a company named Veritas. So I had to deal with that too. I don't miss any of that. So I kind of envy what you two fellas do here at this age and stage in your life. I got to say, it looks pretty good from the outside here. So, but
it's good. It's stressful, but it's good.
Yeah. Well, listen, fellas, we're almost up to 58 minutes right now, and I don't want to keep you any longer. Thanks a lot, John, for jumping in, and Don. as always, I really enjoy talking to you. I've been in Don's, what I call his laboratory before. John, it's pretty cool. He's got monitors everywhere. He's got visor glasses. He's got, and it always comes back to Don. I want to just close on this. He's got a sketchboard there. And I remember you saying to me, I go, do you even use that thing anymore with all these computers and 3D printers around me? You go, yeah, that's where these ideas start and originate on the draft, like what I call the old drafting board type of thing.
Is it Wacom?
Yeah, I've got one of those too, but no, just a traditional, 3 foot by 4 foot.
Cool.
Yeah. Just a basic slate architecture table, essentially. And
I appreciate
yeah,
that. That's
rings a bell.
I do more of that. I do all analog synthesizers and instruments, no digital. So I'm much more analog route.
I'm the same way, and that's kind of the purist part of me is you got to be able to take that traditional and then you can use all the cool tools and make it into something even better. Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
All right, fellas. Well, again, thanks for being here tonight.
Thanks,
I enjoyed. I always like the ideas and trying to figure out what we're all doing on this planet, And John, come on back sometimes. For if you got time, come on in. We'll talk more about it. I'll have different guests coming in. I've got one I'm queuing up right now. I'm still kind of staying in this AI series for a while because I like the research and it's dynamic as hell, but I got somebody coming in. Actually, he's the person who is the guy who has this site, CBRA, this Facebook page, I should say. And he's going to talk to me about AI's impact on being a realtor. So I'm kind of interested in that. He's going to share some ideas on that. But there's always a topic to jump to in this tech series that I've been doing. So hope to have you guys back. Don, you're a regular, so I got to have you back all the time. But John, you're always welcome to come on. If there's something related to join us here. So
yep, yeah. Thanks for having me, Joe, and nice to meet you, Don.
Yeah.
If you ever want to work on
a
art project together, I'm down to. I love collaborating.
Same thing. Absolutely.
Yep. All right, fellas. I don't have my closing music tonight, so feel free to sign off. And God bless you guys, and God bless everybody out there who views this. And you all take care and be safe.
Yep, you too.
All
right.
You too.
Bye now, guys.